Hello, I am head monk Timyong Hu of Yonghwasa Temple in Suri Mountain, Anyang. What was the purpose for monks to become Buddhist priests? I will speak about this. In this good world, shaving one's head and wearing monastic robes to live a whole life, there must have been a purpose for becoming a Buddhist priest, right? Was it to meet a good teacher, encounter good Buddhism, and attain Buddhahood? Or was it because living in society was hard, so they thought, whatever, let's just shave our heads and live in a temple? There must have been some purpose. Then, if one entered the temple with a mind to enlighten living beings, it would be right to meet a good teacher and study. If the Buddhism I know is the best in the world and correct, shouldn't that Buddhism be enlightened Buddhism? But from what I've heard, that's not enlightened Buddhism but just unremarkable Buddhism. If one believes in that and thinks they're enlightening living beings, I think the monks are mistaken. It doesn't seem to be the purpose. Then, I, who have renounced everything and became a Buddhist priest, what is the purpose of my becoming a Buddhist priest? I must have had some purpose and plan, so I became a Buddhist priest, right? I became a Buddhist priest solely because I liked the Buddha and wanted to meet the Buddha and learn enlightened Buddhism from that good teacher. I also attended the monastic university and studied a lot, but in the end, I came close to death, suffering to the point of death while learning the enlightenment. In fact, it wasn't through studying that I learned the enlightenment, but through being ill and enduring that pain for 10 years. That was the realization in learning the enlightenment. The purpose of monks shaving their heads and coming to the temple wasn't because living was hard, but to meet a good teacher for the sake of living beings, receive the realization, and also become enlightened to do good deeds in the future. But upon becoming a Buddhist priest, the reality was far from that, and upon studying, while there are good points in the Buddha's Buddhism, surprisingly, it wasn't enlightened Buddhism. It's more accurate to think of it as unremarkable Buddhism needed for human life. That's not enlightened Buddhism. I was so ill that I came close to death, suffering to the extreme, unable to get up from lying down. I can't fully express that in words. I will speak more gradually from now on, and during that time, I met an enlightened teacher. And who is this enlightened teacher? It is none other than Yongpo Maitreya Buddha. I had posted in writing that I met the enlightened Maitreya Buddha, but I hadn't spoken deeply about it. Today, I will lay it all out, so please listen carefully. My younger brother also became a monk in the Jogi order with me, but he collapsed from illness and was hovering between life and death, on the verge of dying with a respirator attached, but for some reason, maybe due to some virtue from a past life, I finally met Yongpo Maitreya Buddha. When I told him about my illness, Yongpo Maitreya Buddha said to me, if you receive the Chindo ceremony for your ancestors from me, just once, both you and your brother monk will completely recover and become healthy. I was so surprised when I heard those words, because at the temple where I had ordained, I had been performing Chindo ceremonies for my ancestors once or twice a year for over 10 years. So hearing that those Chindo ceremonies had not actually worked was such a huge shock and completely baffling. So I spoke to Yongpo Maitreya Buddha and received the Chindo ceremony for my ancestors. After doing so, my body instantly became better on the spot, and when I was sick and lying in my room all day, because I was sick and couldn't work, because I was always lying down, the monks persecuted me so much, glaring at me and hating me for playing and eating, saying, "Go out to the laity right now." Because they pressured me like this, I couldn't go to the dining hall to eat the meal offering, and in the evening, when no one was around and the monks were all asleep, I went to the rear garden, put cold rice from the rice cooker into a stainless steel bowl, added kimchi, covered it with plastic wrap, secretly took it and placed it on the windowsill, ate one meal in the evening, and then ate breakfast the next morning. But in the summer, that rice would spoil and smell sour. In the winter, that rice would freeze, and I put that frozen rice in my mouth and chewed it. The rice was frozen in my mouth and moved around crunchily. Wow, how did I end up like this? I just cried while eating the rice, shedding tears of blood. I ate such rice and did my learning the enlightenment. Even a beggar wouldn't eat such rice, although I am just a Yogi order monk in name. If you look at the process of my learning the enlightenment, I truly learned the enlightenment worse off than a beggar on the street. Do you know how miserably I learned the enlightenment? I learned the enlightenment so miserably that, looking at the process of learning the enlightenment, I would have become a Buddha more than 10 times over. However, through learning the enlightenment alone, there is absolutely no enlightenment, and one cannot become a Buddha. That's all a lie. Learning the enlightenment becomes learning the enlightenment only when you go to an enlightened Buddha and receive tutelage. You absolutely cannot achieve learning the enlightenment by learning the enlightenment alone. So, among the over 20,000 monks currently in the Yogi order, if there is anyone who has learned the enlightenment like me, please come forward. I undertook tremendous learning the enlightenment that brought tears of blood. Later, even when I risked my life, learning the enlightenment to the point where even tears of blood wouldn't come out, I couldn't attain enlightenment, and being sick, I was just waiting for death. I don't know how I received such blessings, but I met the enlightened Maitreya Buddha and survived by a hair's breadth. So, even someone like me who learned the enlightenment so harshly couldn't attain enlightenment, and because my study was Shakyamuni Buddha's Dharma, a flimsy study, I spent such foolish years learning the enlightenment, yet other monks couldn't even learn the enlightenment like me, so how much could they possibly have studied? That's what I mean. So, I did harsh learning the enlightenment for 10 years, while Shakyamuni Buddha is said to have attained enlightenment after praying under a tree for 6 years. Shakyamuni Buddha did it sitting with a healthy, unharmed body, but I was sick and hovering near death, going to the brink of death. I endured ascetic practice lying down for 10 years, yet I couldn't attain enlightenment. Then, neither the Buddha attained enlightenment that way, nor did I, right? So, did the other monks undertake such learning the enlightenment? That's what I mean, they just did completely bogus learning the enlightenment. Therefore, because the monks couldn't attain enlightenment, they live as living beings, so their greed just increases. They just pocket money and perform Chindo ceremonies they don't even know how to do, receiving precious money from others, but when they die, there's absolutely nowhere to go but the very middle. Where is that place? When monks die, they all go into extinction. They disappear, so who knows what Chindo is, what will happen after I die, who knows that? Without even knowing that, how can one say they're doing Chindo or learning the enlightenment? When students study, they graduate and see a path ahead. They can do business, open a shop, become a civil servant, and they walk a path they can see in front of them. But death is a road you can't see ahead. Monks have no visible path before them, so I ate frozen rice from a windowsill with just a piece of kimchi, one frozen lump at a time while learning the enlightenment. Then why didn't I return to the laity when I was told to leave the temple? Other monks who were sick couldn't endure the persecution. They shed tears of blood, soaked the walls with tears every night, sobbed, and eventually couldn't endure and all left for the laity. I was the only one who didn't leave. My body was so ill that I suffered unbearable pain. I could have just given up my life, but I didn't, because I feared it would bring dishonor to the Buddha. That's why I couldn't end my life. Enlightenment? What enlightenment? What the monks call learning the enlightenment isn't enlightenment at all. It doesn't even qualify to be called enlightenment. I couldn't walk, so I laid down and crawled, enduring pain for 10 years to learn the enlightenment. So when sick, should I just lie down? Until the moment my life was about to end, I never laid down. I clung to the Buddha and practiced daily. I studied, solely to awaken to this great Buddha's Dharma and try once to save living beings. I studied with my life on the line. The Dharma of Shakyamuni Buddha, I was proficient in that too, but when I met Yonghui Maitreya Buddha and received his teachings, I was so ashamed I couldn't even speak. I used to present these things as if they were Dharma, but when I asked questions about them, I was so embarrassed I couldn't even hold out my hand. It wasn't even true Dharma. And the Dharma is only a part of all things in the world, it doesn't rule the whole world. What do monks really know? Come to Yonghui Maitreya Buddha, he awakens all things in the world, and with one glance, he knows. He knows whether monks are blaspheming the Buddha or not. He just doesn't speak of it. Why? Because he has clairvoyance, he knows everything people say, all the curses. I say this out of deep pity, because these monks are spreading such worthless Dharma. If the content of the sermon that Maitreya Buddha himself delivers were broadcast on YouTube or any platform, the temples would shut down that very day. Those with eyes and ears will know the truth immediately. Then go ahead and evaluate. By spiritual power, Shakyamuni Buddha spread the Dharma for 2,600 years with the level of the 500th stage. But the realm of Maitreya Buddha is in the hundreds of millions of stages. Meet him once and see for yourself, he is so tremendous your chest will tremble and shrink. When he sits, he can see right through to the intestines inside your belly, he knows exactly what's in your mind. That much is what it means to be a Buddha. But monks sit with eyes closed, facing a wall. What are they thinking about? Sitting there with closed eyes, do they call that praying? Then who is truly pitiful? It's the Buddhists who go to the temple. Why do they follow such things? It's pathetic. You raise a child, why send them to a good university? Don't you spend money and invest effort so they can go to good schools, good colleges? If prayer could get them into a good university, why send them to cram schools and spend money? Isn't that so? Prayer is not religion, it is Taoism. It is calling upon the sky gods after receiving a spirit. That kind of prayer is not Buddhism. Why would monks, as enlightenment learners who've embraced the Buddha, sit there facing a wall with their eyes closed? That is not religion. Religion is enlightenment. How can prayer be religion? Then why send students to school? Just make them all sit and pray, and they'll get into Seoul National University, without even knowing that. Why do the faithful chase after temples? When you die, your body disappears as a ghost, so before that, when I saw monks, they were Jogi order monks and enlightenment learners, and I used to think they were respectable and good Buddhists, but as I came to learn the awakened Buddhism, when I saw the monks, they seemed truly pitiful. They had nothing in their heads, hadn't studied anything, and yet even after death, what kind of sin were they committing to go so far as to squeeze money out of their own disciples? I'm a disciple too. When my father passed away, I went up to my teacher, a great monk said to be a master, and asked for a Chindo ceremony. He just laughed, saying, "Ha ha ha, he's now riding a flower carriage to heaven." He loudly declared that. I thought, if my parent went to a good place, then my heart would be joyful, and I'd feel happy knowing my parent went to a good place. But despite performing the Chindo ceremony and being told he rode a flower carriage to heaven, my father kept appearing in dreams, and the dreams were restless, so I went back and asked again. Last time, they said he was dancing and ascending to the heavens on a flower carriage, but the dreams were so disturbing I went back and asked again, and then they said, "Oh dear, your father is sitting in hell, do the Chindo ceremony." 2157 Now, what kind of monk says 2 or 3 different things with one mouth? Even if he was my teacher, from that moment on, I no longer saw him as my teacher, I saw him as nothing more than a thief and a con man. Why speak 2 different things with one mouth? And that wasn't all. I was so sick that I couldn't function in daily life and was bedridden. I was trying in every way to get well so I could become a monk and spread Buddhism, but it wasn't working. So I went to ask another monk called Buchan. and this time he said, "If I built a spirit pagoda, then my ancestors would go to a good place, to the land of happiness, and the descendants would have good fortune." So he told me to do the spirit pagoda offering, so I paid a large sum to build the spirit pagoda, and because he said it would bring blessings to descendants, he even charged my disciples a high price and sold it to them. I went as far as doing that too, but instead of getting better, I was heading closer to death. Then that monk died. Later, I met Yonghui Maitreya Buddha, received guidance and Shindo, and my health recovered. But that monk, after dying, still had the face to come every day from the day of his death during his 5-day funeral, 5 times, to visit Yonghui Maitreya Buddha asking for Shindo. He even appeared in my dreams, begging me to perform Shindo for him. So Yonghui Maitreya Buddha said, "You are not even a Buddha, yet you passed yourself off as one. You couldn't even perform Shindo, but claimed you did well and collected Shindo fees from the faithful, and even from your disciples. You lied too much, committed many thefts, and lived your whole life as a swindler. Therefore, I cannot perform Shindo for you." That monk first squeezed money out of the faithful, and when he could no longer do that, he started squeezing money from monks who were his ordained disciples. Because he committed such a grave sin, Shindo was not granted to him, and I realized that this great monk was lying and deceiving people, so I left that temple and enshrined Maitreya Buddha to spread the truly awakened Buddhism. That great monk pretended to be a Buddha, and the sin for that is beyond imagination, so Shindo was not performed. That monk was in hell after death, and recently I heard he was extinguished into disappearance from the Sabal world. So, when monks lie to Buddhists, claiming they can perform Shindo which they actually can't, and take money for it, that becomes a great sin, and when they die, they disappear like that. Usually, compared to lay Buddhists who attend temples, most enlightenment learners who become monks and die, end up extinguished. Why is that? Because while alive, they act as if they will never die. Did enlightenment learners earn money and run temples or carry out Buddhist works? They lived off offerings from the faithful, lived comfortably, but did not truly spread Buddhism and instead committed sins. So when they die, they are extinguished. What ambitious dream of attaining Buddhahood are you dreaming? Having lied to living beings your whole life, what ambitious dream of attaining Buddhahood are you feeding on? That is something monks, being living beings, do not know, but the enlightened Maitreya Buddha knows everything, because only the enlightened Maitreya Buddha knows. For monks, every minute, every second is urgent, not seeking him out, but staying in temples, passing oneself off as some Buddha, passing oneself off as a great monk, is all waiting for death, and upon death, it is all extinction. Try living and see if it's a lie. This is what the enlightened Maitreya Buddha has said. All monks undergo extinction when they die, after meeting an enlightened teacher and meeting the living Buddhahood Yonghui Maitreya Buddha, who came to the Sabal world and studying. It was revealed that what that monk who claimed he attained Buddhahood said, was entirely a lie. Before the Yonghui Maitreya Buddha who came enlightened, all lies are revealed. Why would they commit such sins after death by extorting money, even from their own disciples like that? That belongs in the realm of shamans. It is truly not how an enlightenment learner should behave oneself wisely, and the true enlightened teacher is the Yonghui Maitreya Buddha, the truly enlightened teacher. If I hadn't met this enlightened teacher, I would already not be of this world, but because I met the enlightened teacher, my body healed, and I received tutelage on the enlightened sermon from the enlightened teacher. Even the established monks who claim to have studied a lot must all come and learn from me, because I received much tutelage. When I listen to the sermons of existing monks, I can tell right away that they are bogus. Listening to the sermons of monks appearing on Buddhist broadcast is so pathetic. Such sermons are truly nothing compared to the enlightened sermon. It's the same as people pursuing doctoral degrees at university learning things like Gagya Gyo Jayo, mother, father, like kindergarten children before entering elementary school. Such flimsy sermons are broadcast daily on Buddhist television. The broadcast station that airs such flimsy sermons is also pathetic, and looking at the reality of Buddhism, it's as if they are all shamans, always saying pray, there is grace in prayer. If you are sick, sit before the Buddha statue and your body will heal. Also, telling lies like, while reciting the Diamond Sutra, if you put a few grains of rice outside the door every day for 100 days, the soul, spirit will be guided and depart, and also saying, the main character is within me, the Buddha is within me, the true self is within me. Since the main character is within me, if you trust and let go of that main character, everything will be resolved. If the Buddha is within me, is that a Buddha? It's a ghost, a ghost.
The law of all things in the universe, the Gong Thought. The teachings of Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha, the founder of the Gong Thought. An enlightened Buddha emits light from his body and saves living beings with Buddha's enlightened light. The light of the sun that creates all things is Buddha's enlightened light. And only the Buddha's enlightened light of an enlightened Buddha can make humans reincarnate. The Buddha's enlightened light of the living Buddha. That is precisely the Gong Thought. Receiving Shugi means embracing Buddha's enlightened light, that is, the Gong Thought, within my body. After death, there is no samsara, only everything becomes extinct. If you receive Shugi with the Buddha's enlightened light of an enlightened Buddha, you will have eyes that can see the Yonghwa world even after death. Chendo and Shugi are only possible through the Buddha's enlightened light of an enlightened Buddha. Don't receive Chendo after death, receive Shugi while you are alive. Believe and follow only what you can see, hear, and confirm. The dead cannot arise interdependently, only the living can arise interdependently. Just as gold cannot be made artificially, a Buddha comes as a Buddha from the beginning. And a living being cannot become a Buddha through prayer or Zen meditation. However, those who have received Shugi can receive Buddha's enlightened light and become living Buddhas. All these Gong Thought were created by Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha. Like the sky and the earth, the sea and the mountains, the source of life and creation, the limitless and eternal truth, the Gong Thought. See, hear, and meet Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha's Gong Thought directly every Sunday at Yonghwasa Temple in Surazin Mountain, Anyang.